We spoke with Laurent Didalto, CEO of Mimbus.com, about how gaming builds real-world skills like precision, strategy, and problem solving. Well, now we're taking that same idea even further. We're joined by a young entrepreneur who grew up gaming and turned that mindset into a successful custom concrete design business serving high-end builders and contractors. Welcome to Skilled Nation, where hard work meets real opportunity. From welding and electrical to HVAC and the trades that keep this country running, this is where skills turn into careers. Skilled Nation is sponsored by Tulsa Welding School. It's a way of life, a badge of honor. From digital worlds to real world creation. Henry, welcome to Skilled Nation.
Thank you for having me.
This is going to be interesting. First, let's start at the beginning. As I said in the intro here, you started out gaming. What kind of games did you play?
So I was born in '82. So I started on computer games, mostly like Quake, Myst, Riven, a lot of Science Studios stuff, some first-person shooter, and strategy games. So like SimCity, things like that.
All right. And now, so I know I have a son who's a gamer, and he can just immerse in that and spend hours and hours and hours gaming. And when you think of the hours you might have spent gaming, what skills were you learning without even knowing you were learning skills?
Oh, problem solving, strategy building, a stick-to-itiveness that applies to all facets of life as an entrepreneur and a small business owner. That brute force works in that respect. So yeah, those would be the high points.
Okay. And so do you think there was a point like where those skills went from that virtual gaming world and you saw yourself, and this is asking you to kind of go meta like and look at yourself, but was there a point at which you saw yourself applying those in the real world?
The strategy, absolutely. To be a small business owner and an entrepreneur, you do have to have the ability to, see what's coming your way and, strategize in a way that makes you successful. So yeah, absolutely. Gaming taught me how to think on my feet, so to speak. And that couldn't be more true in the small business world. So it's always something that gets thrown your way that you really can't account for, or, I guess, yeah.
Well, it comes at you fast, just like in a game. And we should mention, Henry Caldenbaugh is the CEO of HK Concrete Design. And it was not a straight path, right? You studied computer science, correct? And then you stepped into more of a trades direction. Tell me that journey. How did you wind up going from what seems like a very different path into the path you wound up on now?
I was very tech savvy as a young kid. And so I was very handy. I could build computers, learned how to code. I learned how to write video game levels for Doom and for Quake and for things of that nature. And then as I got older, I started to realize what that tech life looked like. And I was going to be sitting in front of a screen and in a room. And I took some odd jobs that I had taken throughout my high school years, and which was construction, and started to apply that to the skills that I had gained in terms of decorative concrete work, and realized that if I was savvy enough, I could stick together a business and turn this into something that could really be profitable. And so that's what I ended up doing.
All right, Henry, you're blowing my mind because I cannot make that leap, right? From when I think about gaming, right, it just seems very different from the tactile, creating a form, pouring the concrete, putting in the rebar, whatever it is you have to do in those steps. I don't see how the one translates to the other. Can you talk about where that overlap is and where the one set of skills informed the set of skills you're deploying every day now?
Sure. When I was gaming, I saw it as a very an artistic expression of the game designers, and you were stepping into a world that was not real. It was a fantasy, so to speak. And a lot of times in the environment that I work in, you were asked by clients and designers to create things that are unorthodox or out of the norm. And so we would have to use that visualization of thinking of something that is not yet realized and bring it to reality. And so I fall back on the worlds that I would explore in Myst and Riven, and they were always these beautiful scenes or scapes that you would involve yourself in that weren't of this world. And so I pulled a lot of the design the design cues from that to start in the early days to wow people in terms of the decorative concrete stuff that I would make. Now, I don't know, it wasn't a direct transition from, it wasn't like I stepped out of tech one day and was like, hey, I'm going to go do concrete. It was kind of a natural transition. I had stepped out of tech after realizing a job in that industry and decided that I didn't want to be sedentary. I wanted to be a little more mobile in my life. And so that transitioned into other skills that I had. And so I would say that gaming really played into the ancillary skills that were involved with what I was doing in terms of making something tangible and drawing a line between the two industries.
Well, we should get a sense of what you're talking about when you talk about this decorative concrete design. So HK Concrete Design, what kind of designs are you building? What do these look like? And are they functional and decorative, or one or the other, or both?
Yes, absolutely functional and decorative. So our chief focus in our industry is vanities, fireplaces, hearths, fire pits, and cladding. So we're taking this ultra high performance concrete and we are asking it to do things that normal concrete wouldn't do in terms of we have vanities that span very large distances, sometimes up to 20 feet, with integrated sinks that hold water, that have a certain aesthetic to them that is unbecoming of concrete. A lot of people think that when you have concrete, it's gray and looks like a sidewalk, and our concrete is anything but. And so we have many varying finishes. We can do very uniform looking stuff. We can do highly modeled and rustic looking finishes. We also have a huge line of board formed stuff that we do. And we ask it to do things that normal concrete couldn't normally do. The great thing about concrete is at one point when you're creating it, it's a liquid. And by utilizing the molding process, you're able to force that liquid into a form and it takes on whatever shape of mold that you are creating. And so we can, as long as we can create that form in the negative, we are able to figure out how to make that piece function in the way that we want it to.
And how much of this, I just got to ask, my experience with concrete is pretty limited, but I'm always used to putting in some kind of rebar or something else that's carrying some of the structural load. Do you have to have, in addition to the form, which is the shape in negative, do you have to have some sort of skeleton inside that helping with the load?
Depending on the application, yes, but for the most part, because we're in high-end residential and commercial usage, this UHPC concrete that we're using, the reinforcement comes in the force of glass fibers, whether that is an acrylic fiber or a polyvinyl alcohol fiber or an alkali resistant fiber. That is what carries the reinforcement inside of our concrete. Because a lot of people, when they think of concrete, has to be really thick, has to be filled with rebar and a metal structure. We can get our concrete down to easily a half-inch thick, no problem with that glass fiber that's in it. So we tend to push its limits in terms of what it can do structurally and decoratively.
Half inch. You're blowing my mind. Yes. I can't believe it. Half inch. So that's when you're talking about this ultra high performance concrete, you're talking about that fibrous? Is that really what sets it apart from the concrete everyone's thinking of on a, as you said, on a sidewalk?
Absolutely. Mixed design is how we in the industry describe what performance of concrete that you're getting. And we have several different varying levels of that. Most people see concrete as a sidewalk or a driveway that comes from a ready mix plant. And the pounds per square inch strength of that concrete is driven by the aggregate size and the pozzolanic content inside the concrete. So usually like a ready mix truck that's putting concrete into a form or a sidewalk or a driveway is about 3,500 to 5,000 PSI. Our concrete, because of the way that we create the mix designs, can easily equal up to 12,000 PSI. And yeah.
So how did you, because there are these preconceptions around what concrete can and cannot do, you're an entrepreneur, you're launching something new and you're trying to push the limits of what can be done on a job site. But you need partners, you need builders to trust you. How do you establish that trust? How did you let them, did you have to do demos? How did you get their confidence?
A lot of times our conversations start at the designer level. Okay. So when we were in our early stages of starting this business, we did a lot of lunch and learns and meet and greets with designers and contractors to provide education to them so that they could understand what our materials could and couldn't do and what the expectations needed, how they needed to be set with each client for the project that they were looking to accomplish. And there still is a lot of that, but I do my best to always be reaching out to new architects and designers and contractors to educate them, because here in America, we are in the very early stages of what decorative concrete can do and how it can be applied in the contracting world.
Who's at the front edge? Are we looking at Dubai or who's really doing the next level stuff that you have to educate people and maybe show them those photos or Instagram posts or whatever to show them what's possible?
I would say Australia and Asia are probably the people that are at the cutting edge of doing this in terms of cladding building with weather-resistant surfaces that don't require paint or maintenance to keep them up over time. And that's really where concrete shines. If you can clad the exterior of a high-end apartment complex with decorative concrete panels, you don't have to worry about maintenance over the course of time or the concrete degrading because it's just tough as nails.
Henry Kaldenbaugh is the CEO of HK Concrete Design. What's a design that came to you from a designer or that you saw maybe in Australia or Asia that blew your mind and really opened your mind up to how far you could push this material?
We did a project for the JW Marriott down in Phoenix a couple of years ago that it had a lot of radiuses to it. It was this undulating bar design that spanned, about 100 feet in terms of this bar, but it was a very large radius. And so that made me really delve into my computer and gaming background, because it allowed me to use CNC machines and 3D printing and a lot of the tech kind of precursors that I had in executing this design that came to us from this designer for that project.
Okay, Henry, this is fascinating. You're talking about where your computer science background and your gaming background is actually directly informing how you design. Can you delve into
Absolutely.
that more? Like how did that transference of knowledge from the one world to the other world, to a very virtual world, to a very tactile world, how does that work?
Lots of hours behind the stick without being too straightforward about it. And I say stick because hours and hours of gaming is a very apt way to describe the time that you need to dedicate to these crafts in order to understand them innately and be able to integrate them into your design. So I do think that the ability to sit down and put your head into something for many hours is a benefit that translates into at least this business that I'm in. My gaming directly helped me be able to step through to my 3D modeling, which became a huge asset in terms of my business.
Okay. And, the aesthetics in games can be just fantastical, right? Because they don't have to worry about gravity. There are certain restrictions that they just don't have, right? They don't have to worry about structural viability. However, sometimes when somebody's really pushing it without limitations, it can be an inspiration. It has gaming aesthetics in any way transferred over? And I'm not talking about skills. I'm just talking about how things look. Has the aesthetic transferred or informed your work at all?
100%. And I always call back to these two very very astute game developers from my younger years, Rand and Robin Miller. They are the owners of Cyan Studios. They created Myst and Riven, and they this game Riven was kind of a slideshow driven game, but it was based on fantastical scenes or scapes that were just out of this world. And I would say that absolutely, I still call back on that source material for a lot of things that I'm looking at in terms of bringing this aesthetic into reality. They would sometimes use metals in a way that normally we wouldn't have seen as being possible because they were designing inside of a game environment. But I think that that pushes me to think about how I could apply that in concrete and the other materials that I use to form the concrete in a way that you wouldn't traditionally see. A lot of times we are actually 3D printing masters that are then cast into a rubber mold, and that rubber can directly take the concrete without any defects. So you could take a 3D print and you could create something that normally you wouldn't be able to create through traditional forms of machining, and directly translate that into a material that you wouldn't see that form in.
And I would imagine the 3D printing, in a sense, gives you some liberty to take some risks, right, with the design, because it's relatively inexpensive compared to using other kinds of materials. Is that true?
100%. Yes, you can prototype very quickly using the 3D printers that are on the market at a consumer level now that can help transition that into a design that you can achieve incredibly inexpensively.
So there you go. It opens up the door for experimentation and really pushing the limits of design.
100%.
We're talking with Henry Caldenbaugh. He's the CEO of HK Concrete Design. And Henry, I want to put a fine point on it. We're talking very broadly about how, because we may have gamers listening right now. What is beyond aesthetics, beyond inspiration? What are, in the day-to-day process, keyframing, wireframing, what are some of the things that directly from game design translate to your tactile design in your day-to-day?
The ability to think outside the box and be able to realize that even though traditional systems don't inform this, you are able to take things from a non-reality based environment and brute force them into reality.
Okay. And you talked about how gaming prepared you because things come at you fast in a game, right? Especially the higher level you get, the harder it gets. Has there ever been a time that something's gone sideways on a real world job site where you felt like, this is just the next level of the game, where that mindset prepared you for a real world job site?
Absolutely. Yeah. We have jobs sometimes that don't go according to plan, even though they are designed and thought out as well as they possibly could be. And that ability to think on your feet is absolutely integral to being successful in really any facet of small business, contracting, et cetera. The the ability to not get discouraged and to keep moving forward regardless of what the outcome you're currently experiencing is necessary. And I can say that I directly derived that from, you know, going through a level and not beating a boss, or running into something that I didn't know how to attack it, and just kind of approaching it from a hands-on standpoint where you try many different variations until you just figure it out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that sounds very applicable. And so, for the gamers who might be listening to this, how would you convince them that what they're doing now actually, because it's surprising to me at least that there's this much transference, but what's your pitch? What's your pitch to a gamer for the skilled trades, and also how creative you can get in the skilled trades like you're doing?
My pitch would be, don't listen to what the people around you are telling you, because I do feel sometimes that you you might get discouraged by what other people perceive as your hobbies or what you're doing in terms of spending your time. But I mean, look at me. I spent hours gaming when I was younger, and I was able to directly apply those skills to the environment that I was working towards. So,
Right. Yeah. Honestly, I think there is a point at which, when you're looking at a forward-looking direction, future-looking direction, there's a cutoff in age, because what we experienced in our training is so different than what the kids are going to experience in their training, either right now or especially 5-10 years from now. Where do you see it moving? Where do you see the skilled trades going? Because you seem to be pushing with your designs the edge of what's possible. So where do you see it going?
I see it going to a place that even I can't imagine, even though I'm creating things that no one else has created and are hardly imagined. I feel like with the introduction of AI into so many facets of our world, that it's going to go to a place that it's going to look very different from what traditionally we see in the trades right now. Um, yeah, I can't tell you how many times that a designer approaches me with a project that defies physics, yet some way we have yet to come across a solution. And that stick to itiveness, that ability to just keep on going when things feel like they are uh, not working out the way that you had originally thought. Yeah, I mean, I learned that from going through levels in games. So.
Okay, so has there ever been a time when it sounds like you'll just keep hacking away at it, pushing at it, poking the bear, whatever, you'll just keep at it until you figure it out? Has there ever been a design that was just brought to you that was that impossible level of the game that you just couldn't crack? Or have you solved every one of them?
Thankfully, not yet.
That's fantastic.
I think that it comes with an open communication between your client and the expectations, knowing how to set those expectations, and trying to approach it. Now, I am also part of a collective of many other business owners and artists, and so I love being able to bounce ideas off of these people through communicating with them to help achieve the ultimate goal, which is success in whatever task you're taking on. So
we're talking to Henry Kaldenbaugh. He is the CEO of HK Concrete Design. You just mentioned it. You are the CEO, an entrepreneur, a business owner. That's the part that maybe it applies, maybe it doesn't. But in addition to doing the trade you fell in love with, you have to run a business. How do you get that mindset? Where did you find mentorship? And was that in any way informed by your past experience?
Mentorship, I would say I was mentored by my father because he was a small business owner and a pediatrician. And so he provided a lot of insight in my early years in getting this thing off the ground. And peers within my industry. You know, I think it's interesting when you get into gaming, especially gaming that you need to communicate with people pretty quickly, like multiplayer gaming. You quickly figure out that people that you don't know become people that you need to rely on to be successful. And that directly came into play as I was starting this business because I didn't know a lot of the other business owners and confidants that I ended up acquiring in this industry directly, but through the internet and through just communicating with them in a way that I needed to get the task done, we were able to achieve amazing things.
Wow. See, now there's a connection I never would have thought of. But you're right. Multiplayer, you're on a headset, you have your mic on, and you're talking to somebody who could be next to you or around the world, and you've got to make a connection and cooperate and collaborate right away.
Absolutely.
That does sound directly transferable. Never would have thought of that. So what's the hardest thing then? What's the thing that has been the hardest level, so to speak? I mean, is it doing the books? Is it managing people? Is it doing the sales? What's been the hardest thing?
I feel like anybody that gets into this industry, they are following a passion, or any industry. They're following a passion. And if they are able to make it to a level where they are functioning highly, it's easy to get dragged down by the ancillary details. And so I would say the most difficult part for me is probably people management. People management is probably the most difficult part of it.
It seems like everyone who has a business, and especially at some point in the business's growth where you have to take on more people and you're waiting for that revenue to balance. The point at which you need an HR department is a real tough point of growth for any company.
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
What's the favorite part of your job? Like if you were in a classroom talking to a group of students who are trying to weigh their options, what would you use to entice them into doing what you do, which is pushing the boundaries of what concrete design can be?
I feel like I'm in a very specialized industry that allows me to see my dreams be realized into tangible form very quickly. Now, I think for anybody getting into trades or getting into any business, that you can see your dreams be realized. So hang on to that. It may not be today, it may not be tomorrow that you see that happen, but if you keep putting one foot in front of the other, you will get to the next level.
And so is that on a feeling personally fulfilled, artistically in your case fulfilled, or in a paying the bills, having a viable career, having stability in your life way? Or is it both?
It's both, 100%. I feel satisfied on a creative level nearly every day, and satisfied on a financial success level nearly every day. I wouldn't be doing what I love if I didn't.
Great. And you touched on mentorship. What are you doing to pull? Because we're facing such a shortage in the skilled trades. What are you doing to pull the next generation along into the trades?
We host classes that teach young individuals that are interested in this trade how to work with the materials that we are using daily. We're working on partnering with our suppliers in order to create workshops where those individuals can come in and use the materials that we're working with and learn them in a way that it's not a huge cost to them, or there's not a huge barrier to entry. And me and a few other individuals are working on a continuing education program that will be available online and in person, in terms of teaching people about what we do and how to do what we do.
Well, thanks for creating opportunities for more young people, especially, but even mid-career, people looking for a reset to get into the trades. And also, I got to ask, just because I have you, and I know that you'll know you're on the cutting edge of it, What's next in concrete? I mean, I've heard about experiments with bendable concrete, self-repairing concrete, the fibrous concrete that you're talking about that really doesn't need that kind of internal rebar skeleton. It seems like concrete, our conception of it is really limiting. You've already broken through so many of those preconceptions. What's next in concrete? What's coming down the pike?
I think you're right on the nose with the idea of self-repairing concrete. That's very cutting edge. And as I said before, we're only scratching the surface of UHPC here in the States. So I'm excited to see these technologies be implemented more as the education grows, because we can really push the boundaries, especially with digital design and being able to realize things that may not be traditional, or even using traditional building methods of what this fantastic material can do. So,
a lot to learn, a lot to look forward to. Where can people find out more about HK Concrete Design?
A lot of our marketing is done through Instagram and Facebook and TikTok. So at HK Concrete Design on Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook.
All right. Are you doing any of the viral dances on TikTok? I just got to ask.
No, sir.
Hey, it was worth a shot, Henry. Hey, thank you so much. Henry Kaldenbaugh, CEO of HK Concrete Design. Thanks for being a guest on Skilled Nation.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Gaming builds focus, strategy, and resilience. The skilled trades turned those same skills into careers that shape cities, power industries, and create lasting impact. Henry's journey shows that when what starts on a screen, it can become something really powerful in the real world. Hey, if you're listening and you think your time gaming isn't going to translate, well, think again. Skills are skills. The question is where you apply them. This is Skilled Nation, a way of life, a badge of honor.